Today, we are undertaking an unprecedented deep dive into what might be the most successful character evolution in modern television. Steve Harrington. We're not just recapping his greatest hits. We're dissecting the narrative mechanics that turned the quintessential high school jerk into the show's undisputed emotional anchor.
It's truly a triumph, of both script writing and performance.
Yeah.
Steve was designed to be narrative fodder, disposable. And yet his journey of hard-won empathy has made him arguably the character that the audience is most invested in protecting.
And that investment translates into just, massive anxiety. Given that fans are practically holding their breath, we need to address the elephant in the room immediately. There was this widespread panic, almost a certainty even, that Steve would meet a tragic end in the most recent batch of episodes, Stranger Things 5, Part 2. We have to settle this for you right now. Is Steve safe, or was that fear realized?
The short answer is he is safe. Yes. We can definitively confirm that Steve does not die in Stranger Things 5 Part 2. He survives, relatively unscathed, to see the final season premiere. But the reason that confirmation carries so much weight is because the writers made us feel that danger so profoundly.
They absolutely did. You don't get that level of emotional payoff without pushing the character right to the edge. So where was his closest brush with destiny in those latest episodes?
It happened in episode 6, and what's fascinating is the context. Steve and Dustin were racing through the Upside Down to reach Hawkins' lab. They hit this massive obstacle, a melted, burning gap in the floor. And Steve, being, habitually self-sacrificing and maybe a little reckless, he found a ladder. He was fully prepared to use it to bridge the gap, which was basically like walking a tightrope over a void.
The ultimate jock to hero moment, right? Where courage just completely overrides common sense.
Exactly. But it's Dustin who stops him. Dustin, who is emotionally distraught and terrified of losing another close mentor figure, he pulls Steve back. They have this tearful, really raw moment where Dustin essentially begs him not to be the reckless hero anymore. And in that very embrace, the ladder, which would have been Steve's only path, it just slips and plunges into the melted floor.
Wow. So the emotional intervention, the acknowledgement of the bond they share, that's what saves him. Not a punch, not a blast of energy, but pure connection.
Precisely. It's a brilliant narrative device. It underscores the core theme of Steve's evolution.
Yeah.
His willingness to open up emotionally, even if it delays his heroic action, is now his greatest strength. It's his actual protection. He was saved by his own vulnerability, which is a massive subversion of the traditional 1980s action hero.
Saved by vulnerability. I love that framing. But to understand the weight of that moment, we have to rewind. Because here's where the analysis gets really interesting. Steve Harrington was, by original design, never supposed to make it past the first season. He was pure trope.
He was the archetypal, unlikable 1980s jock. The guy we expect to be defeated, humiliated, and then just, exit the narrative. The plan was for him to be killed off early in season 1. He was just supposed to serve as a cautionary tale or like a plot device to further Nancy's development.
So why did they hit the brakes? Why did the Duffer Brothers choose to betray their own blueprint and let him live?
They've admitted that halfway through writing, they just fell in love with the actor's portrayal. He brought this fundamental charm and an underlying insecurity to the role that just transcended the written stereotype. The writers realized they had a unique opportunity. Instead of killing the jerk, they could use him to explore a redemption arc.
That's a huge gamble, though. Didn't that decision potentially cheapen the narrative stakes for other characters? I mean, if you establish a character as disposable and then keep him because of charm, doesn't that make future character deaths like Billy's or Eddie's feel almost inevitable? Because they were just slotted into the antagonistic asshole role that Steve abandoned.
That's a highly critical and I think a fair assessment. The moment they kept Steve, they needed a replacement antagonist, which ultimately became Billy Hargrove in season 2. So yes, Steve's survival meant someone else had to fulfill that aggressive, disposable narrative function. But Steve's arc succeeded precisely because his redemption was earned. He wasn't instantly forgiven.
No, he had to pay the price. He was Nancy's arrogant, gatekeeping boyfriend, and he absolutely earned that beating from Jonathan Byers after harassing him. But the pivot came when he abandoned his genuinely toxic friends, the ones spraying obscenities on signs, and returned to the fight. He literally came back to save the people he had previously mocked.
And that's the core of his critical acclaim. Critics called his redemption a masterclass, not because he became a perfect hero overnight, but because he continually strove to be better. He learned lessons through physical pain and humiliation. You watched him accept responsibility, get his ass kicked, and then emerge, battered but morally sound, from that initial conflict. He wasn't some kind of Mary Sue. He was a character who committed to continuous improvement.
Yeah, it grounds his arc in reality. He didn't suddenly become Neo. He just became a slightly better version of himself, one fight at a time. And that authenticity laid the groundwork for the relationship that truly cemented his status. The unexpected pairing with Dustin Henderson in season 2.
Right. This partnership is a fantastic example of a writer's room seizing on character chemistry that was never planned. They were initially paired simply because they were both emotionally alone. Steve had just been dumped by Nancy, losing his social status, and Dustin was feeling left out by the older kids and rejected by girls.
A narrative necessity that created a massive cultural phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve's transformation from the high school king to this protective figure, this reluctant guardian defending the younger kids from demodogs, it subverted the very concept of 1980s male heroism. Instead of the lone wolf action man, we got the outstanding surrogate babysitter. Someone defined by nurturing and protection rather than dominance.
And this protective persona is what birthed the iconic fan nickname, Mom, Dad, Steve. This isn't just internet chatter. It speaks to a cultural yearning for male figures who prioritize care over conquest.
It does. It fundamentally reframes what strength looks like. And the depth of this connection became so profound that even the marketing department got involved. I mean, Netflix putting up Protect Steve billboards before the season 4 conclusion, that shows the profound, almost parental, emotional stake the entire audience has in his safety.
And those billboards were earned through shared, memorable moments. Moments that injected so much needed humor into the series. We have to talk about the quintessential Steve as life coach scene.
Of course. The dating advice Steve gives Dustin, it's simultaneously hilarious and ridiculously outdated. The insistence on the 3 essential puffs of Farrah Fawcett hairspray is just a brilliant comedic detail.
3 sprays, buddy. 3 sprays. I can almost smell the Aquanet just thinking about it. What's funny is that Striv is sharing this advice in the wake of his own failure with Nancy, yet he offers it with the confidence of a seasoned expert. That blending of bravado and underlying sincerity is what makes their bond so endearing.
It creates this beautiful irony. He's teaching a younger generation how to survive high school, using lessons that actually failed him. But he's doing it out of genuine care. And that sincerity overrides the absurdity of the hairspray.
Okay, so moving into season 3, we see Steve's evolution broaden through his connection with Robin Buckley. If his relationship with Dustin was paternal, the bond with Robin was pure, hard-won, platonic love.
It was a narrative masterstroke because it avoided the obvious romantic path. They bonded intensely while working at Scoops Ahoy, deciphering that secret Russian radio message, which ultimately led to them being captured, interrogated, and heavily drugged by Soviet operatives.
Right, the drugging scene is crucial, isn't it? Because it lowered their inhibitions, setting the stage for one of the most significant character revelations in the entire series. While recovering, Steve confesses his romantic feelings for Robin.
And this is the definitive moment that confirmed Steve's complete character transformation. Robin responds not with drama, but with vulnerability. She reveals she is a lesbian. Steve's reaction here is what critics analyzed endlessly as a perfect scene.
How so? Because he didn't react dramatically.
Exactly. He absorbed the revelation, processed it for about 2 seconds, and his response wasn't self-pity or judgment. Instead, he immediately joked about her crush, Tammy Thompson. He called her a terrible singer who sounds like a Muppet. His response was one of immediate, unflappable acceptance and humor.
That scene holds so much power, especially considering the setting. This is a small, relatively closed-off community in the 1980s, a period not exactly known for easy acceptance of LGBTQ identities.
It's the antithesis of the 80s movie jerk. The previous Steve would have been shocked, judgmental, or felt personally rejected. The redeemed Steve simply saw his friend's pain and immediately used humor and acceptance to diffuse it. It proved that his transformation was genuine, deep down to his core values. He didn't need the girl. He needed a real supportive connection.
And their continued dynamic working together at Family Video in season 4 proves this wasn't just a single emotional moment. They speak in a genuine shorthand, finishing each other's thoughts. Steve actively became Robin's fierce platonic ally, even encouraging her crush on Vicky.
It highlights that platonic friendship is just as valuable, if not more so, than the pursuit of romance within this narrative. It shows the emotional maturity of both characters.
So we know Steve survives part 2, but we have to look ahead to the final confrontation. The sources are pointing towards some significant emotional turmoil, particularly concerning the aftermath of Eddie Munson's death.
The current conflict is saturated with the grief surrounding Eddie. Co-creator Ross Duffer noted that Dustin is heavily struggling because of what happened to Eddie, which introduces a massive wrench into the Steve-Dustin dynamic.
How does that grief specifically manifest against Steve? Does Dustin start to pull away?
That's the prediction. Dustin may pull away from Steve as a psychological defense mechanism, against the pain of further loss. He's already lost a protector figure once this season, and that vulnerability is terrifying. The sources hint that this emotional distance will surface in a distressing argument between the two of them.
Oh, that would be agonizing for the audience. There's a theory that Dustin, in his pain, might push Steve away by saying something cruel like, "You're not Eddie." That would strike directly at Steve's deepest insecurity, the fear of being replaced or seen as insufficient.
It's a very real possibility, and it ties back into Steve's entire history of fighting for validation. The narrative function of that argument, however painful, would be to force both characters to articulate their love and dependence on each other before the final climax, to secure their bond once and for all.
Meanwhile, the ghosts of past romance are still lingering. The tension between Steve and Nancy Wheeler hasn't dissipated despite their time apart.
That is the secondary emotional conflict Steve carries into the finale. We know he confessed his enduring love for Nancy in Season 4, and he even articulated this detailed vision of their future. A Winnebago, traveling, and 6 children.
His famous nuggets.
The Winnebago and the Nuggets. It's such a perfect visualization of his matured, slightly domestic dreams. It's a world away from the mansion parties of Season 1. But given the high stakes of Season 5, why keep the Nancy romantic tension alive?
That's a good question.
Well, it serves 2 crucial purposes. First, it acknowledges the organic chemistry of the characters. Second, and more importantly for the narrative, it functions as a maturity test for both Steve and Nancy. Steve needs to show he's moved past the idea of needing to win Nancy to validate his own worth. And Nancy needs to decide if she can truly move past the drama of Jonathan and embrace this incredibly supportive, emotionally honest partner Steve has become.
So whether or not they end up together, the function of the tension is to illustrate Steve's final growth point. And strategically, where are Steve and Robin positioned for this final confrontation?
They're absolutely on the front line. The sources confirm that Steve and Robin are actively using a local radio station, potentially Hawkins Radio, to coordinate their efforts. They're running secret crawls to track Vecna within the Upside Down. They're placing themselves, the emotional core of the protection squad, directly into the path of the final massive battle.
So what does this all mean? Steve Harrington, the character who was engineered to be disposable, has defied the trope to become the moral compass of the series. His story shows that true heroism isn't about being inherently powerful, but about continuously choosing change, choosing empathy, and choosing protection.
He's the triumph of choice over destiny. He could have remained the handsome, privileged jerk. Instead, he chose the difficult path of mentorship and supportive alliance. This striving for moral excellence, this hard-won improvement, is why he carries such profound emotional weight. He's the ultimate proof that characters can evolve beyond their initial limited archetypes.
And as we look toward the grand finale, there's one piece of origin lore that connects Steve's small-town life to the grand, classified evil they are fighting. The entire premise of the series, the idea of secret government experiments opening portals, was inspired by real-world rumors surrounding a decommissioned military base in New York called Camp Hero in Montauk.
It's a deep cut, but it's critical context. Camp Hero was closed in 1980, and the stories surrounding it, secret mind control experiments, parallel dimensions, are the genesis of the Upside Down.
Given that the finale must inevitably confront the dark, classified origins of the Upside Down and the secrets held within this Montauk lore, it raises a powerful, provocative question for you, the listener. Will Steve Harrington, the redeemed jock who never had a grand secret destiny, be the one ultimately forced to confront the dark, original classified secrets of Montauk that started the entire story?
The boy who started the series, oblivious to the secrets of the small town, may be the only one equipped to resolve them. That is a destiny no one predicted.
Indeed. You'll have to wait and see what the finale holds. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you for joining us.